Hello, everyone, and welcome back once again to our last live coverage of Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft returned from the International Space Station with the deorbit burn, re-entry, and landing of the Soyuz spacecraft with the three members on board. Hope you all are doing fine and excited about the upcoming landing event of the Soyuz spacecraft and the return of the three crew members. We hope you checked out the previous streams of the Soyuz MS-26 return, which covered the hatch closure and the undocking of the Soyuz spacecraft. If not, then it's there on our channel. Do check it out after the stream ends. Hi, my name is Dipto Mehra. I'll be your friend and host providing the insights and commentary for today's event at the International Space Station, and you are watching AstroYonder live.
Roger, 0G, and I feel fine. Capsule is turning around.
Houston, we see a nominal MECO. Welcome to space.
We are super excited to bring you the coverage of Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft deorbit burn and landing with the three crew members on board in Kazakhstan. On board the Soyuz MS spacecraft are Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexey Ovchinin and Ivan Vagner, along with NASA astronaut Don Pettit. Now they are on their way back to Earth. Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft deorbit burn is scheduled for 8:26 p.m. Eastern Daytime, 0:26 hours UTC, and the landing is scheduled for 9:20 p.m. Eastern Daytime, which corresponds to 1:20 hours UTC on steppe of Kazakhstan, south of the town of Dzhezkazgan. It sounds like Genghis Khan. Okay, fine. Interestingly, landing will occur on Pettit's 70th birthday. Previously, Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft hatch closed at 2:52 p.m. Eastern Daytime, 1852 hours UTC, and the spacecraft undocked successfully from the orbital outpost at 5:57 p.m. Eastern Daytime, 21:57 hours UTC. Now, before moving on the details, on behalf of AstroYonder team and our moderators, we express our heartfelt gratitude to everyone for being a part of today's exciting event. Big thanks to our amazing and supportive YouTube community for being here today as we provide detailed live coverage of space launches and events complete with extensive stats and thorough insights. We really appreciate you being here with us today. Excuse me for that glitch. So just a heads up, it's me only managing the live coverages on my own. So if we hit any technical snags, hang tight, but nothing to worry about. I will do my best to walk you through the event happening in approximately 14 minutes from now. We would love it if you guys hop into the chat or the comment section and let us know from where you are tuning in. Feel free to drop any questions, suggestions, or share your thoughts as we move ahead in the stream. We would love to hear from you and get to know more about you. Now let's get back to today's event. Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft undocking with the crew on board occurred at 5:57 p.m. Eastern Daytime. 21:57 hours UTC. Now the MS-26 spacecraft deorbit burn is scheduled at 8:26 p.m. Eastern Daytime, and the landing with the 3 crew members on board in Kazakhstan is scheduled for 9:20 p.m. Eastern Daytime, 1:20 hours UTC. The Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft launched and docked to the station Prashal module on September 11, 2024 with a crew of 3. Now the Expedition 72 began on 23rd September 2024 with crew members Butch Wilmore, Sonny Williams as the ISS commander for the Expedition 72, both the crew of Boeing Starliner crew test flight, with Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexey Ovchinin and Ivan Vagner, along with NASA astronaut Don Pettit from Soyuz MS-26, joined later by Nick Hague and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Kurbanov from SpaceX Crew 9 in September 2024. SpaceX Crew 10. After the return of Crew 9, SpaceX Crew 10 launched on March 14, 2025 and docked with the ISS on March 16 at 12:04 a.m. Eastern Time with crew members Annie McLean, Nicole Ayers, Takuya Onishi, who is right now the ISS commander, Kirill, and with the Roscosmos cosmonaut Kirill Peskov, followed by the recent launch of Soyuz MS-27 on April 8, 2025, which docked to the Prashant module of the ISS at 4:57 a.m. Eastern Time with crew members Sergei Ryzhkov, Alexey Zubritsky, and NASA astronaut Johnny Kim. Now on your screen is the crew members of the Expedition 73 who are left behind on board the International Space Station upon the departure of the Soyuz MS-26 undocking. The Expedition 73 will be commanded by Takuya Onishi, a Japanese astronaut for JAXA, selected in 2009. He spent 4 months on board the International Space Station in 2016. In March of this year, that is 2025, he arrived at the International Space Station on SpaceX Crew 10 mission as part of Expedition 72-73. Currently, he is on his second mission aboard the orbital outpost. His cumulative time in space stands at 150 days and counting. I guess it crossed that. I guess it's now 151 days. And previously, a Japanese national has commanded the station twice, with a third now Onishi for the Expedition 73 from yesterday, that is April 18, 2025. The first commander of a Japanese national was Koichi Wakata. Koichi Wakata is a Japanese engineer and an astronaut working right now for the Axiom Space. Wakata retired from JAXA in 2024 after a career in spaceflight spanning nearly 2 decades. He logged 504 days in space across 5 missions, 3 aboard the Space Shuttle, 1 on Soyuz and 1 on the Crew Dragon. He performed 2 extravehicular activities with a total EVA time, that is extravehicular activity time, of 14 hours and 2 minutes. Notably, during Expedition 39, he became the first Japanese commander of the International Space Station. Now let's meet quickly with our crew who are now on their way back to the Earth. Alexey Ovchinin, who made his first space flight on Soyuz TMA-20M back in 2016, served as a commander there for the mission to space, not for the expedition, and joined as a part of Expedition 47 and 48. During Expedition 57, his flight was aborted mid-flight due to a booster failure. The crew landed safely after a ballistic descent. On Expedition 57 it was, which launched on 11th October back in 2018, where he was accompanied by NASA astronaut Nick Hague. Both were on the Soyuz MS-10 mission on the way to the International Space Station, but unfortunately it was aborted mid-flight. Ovchinin launched to the ISS back again on 14 March 2019, traveling on Soyuz MS-12 with American astronaut Nick Hague and Christina Koch. Later on, Ovchinin took command of the station for Expedition 60, a first for him as an ISS commander. Currently, he was a part of Expedition 71-72, where he served the role of commander for the second time from 7th March 2025 to April 18, 2025, that is yesterday. Expedition 71 and 72, that is to be specific, Expedition 72 has now ended upon their undocking from the International Space Station. Right now, the Expedition 73 is in vogue. His Ovchinin's recent stay aboard the station, a part of Expedition 71-72, which spanned 220 days in space. At the time of his departure, he was having a career total of 595 days in space and having extravehicular time of 13 hours and 18 minutes with a total of 2 extravehicular activities. Now let's meet with the next Roscosmos cosmonaut for the Soyuz MS-26 mission is the Ivan Vagner. His maiden flight was in April back in 2020 as a flight engineer on Soyuz MS-16 mission and Expedition 62-63. During Expedition 63, being a crew member there aboard the International Space Station, he was a part of the crew who welcomed the SpaceX Crew Dragon Demo 2 mission for a stay on board the International Space Station on 31st May 2020. This flight marked the first crewed test flight of SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft and the first crewed orbital spacecraft to launch from US soil since the STS-135, the final flight for the Space Shuttle program back in 2011. The Crew Dragon Demo 2 mission was crewed by NASA astronaut Doug Hurley and Robert Bob Bacon, who remained on board the International Space Station for 2 months. In 2022, Vagner was awarded with the title Hero of the Russian Federation, and his current stay aboard the station, a part of Expedition 71-72, was of 220 days again, as this mission was of 220 days. And at the time of his departure, he was having a career total of 416 days in space and having extravehicular activity time of 7 hours and 17 minutes with 1 EVA performed. Next up, we have our man of science, NASA astronaut Don Pettit. Among the trio, NASA astronaut Don Pettit is the most experienced one, also aged 69, and will be soon turning into 70. He is the NASA's oldest active astronaut as of now. He is well known for his orbital astrophotography and in-space inventions, such as zero-G coffee cup, which received the first ever patent for an object invented in space. Also, one of his astrophotography titled "Lightning Bugs," which went viral, which was of star trail taken by Pettit back in 2011. Pettit's first mission was a mission specialist on STS-113 and Expedition 6 flight engineer. Also, he served as the role of NASA science officer aboard the ISS in 2002 and 2003. He performed 2 EVAs to help install external scientific equipments, and during his free time on his stay aboard the International Space Station, he conducted demonstrations showing how fluid reacts in an extreme low gravity environment. And during his Expedition 6, that mission was extended about 2 months following the loss of Space Shuttle Columbia back in February 2003 and the subsequent grounding of the shuttle fleet. Instead of returning on a shuttle, the crew returned in a Russian Soyuz capsule, the first time American astronauts had launched on Space Shuttle and landed in a Soyuz capsule. On his second space flight aboard Space Shuttle Endeavour on the STS-126 mission to deliver scientific equipment and supplies to ISS. And on his third space flight, Pettit again launched to the International Space Station, and there, with his crewmate Andrei Kuipers, operated the Canadarm to grapple the first SpaceX Dragon 1 and berth it to the Harmony module. This marked the first time a private spacecraft had ever rendezvoused with the ISS. The Dragon capsule was carrying supplies for the ISS, and the successful capture demonstrated the feasibility of using a privately developed spacecraft to resupply the station. Pettit was the first to enter the uncrewed supply ship on May 26, marking him the first astronaut in the history of the space exploration to successfully enter a commercially built and operated spacecraft in orbit. At the time of his departure, he was having a career total of 590 days in space, a less of 5 days compared to Ovchinin, and having EVA time of 13 hours and 17 minutes with a total of 2 EVAs. Well, one thing I forgot to mention that during the capture of the resupply cargo Dragon of the first from SpaceX, he quoted saying, "Houston station, we got a Dragon by the tail." So that was an epic Capcom conversation, or you can say like that. We had that, Houston, we got a problem, Eagle has landed. So like that. So that's all about the crew who are returning back to Earth today. And I guess it's time for the webcast to begin. Yes, let me quickly set up the stream for you guys. Adding value to your viewing experience here at AstroYonder is our topmost priority. If you feel somewhat we achieved that, please consider liking this stream. It helps YouTube's algorithm bring in more space fans like you and helps others to find this stream out. Also consider subscribing to our channel as you work hard to bring your stream packed with stats, details, and insights. So we got the visuals there of the International Space Station Flight Control Room at Johnson Space Station. We will be talking more about Don Pettit's inventions and science later on, because this stream will be stretching a little bit long. And also we will be knowing more about the Soyuz MS, not Soyuz MS-26, but about the Soyuz spacecraft and its functioning from the departure of the ISS. Now let's hear to the Capcom there, what they're saying.
The deorbit checklists and all of the timelines that has set up the Soyuz MS-26 for the engine firing that is coming up now 25.5 minutes from now. That will be a 4-minute, 41-second braking maneuver to slow the Soyuz down by 128 meters per second, allowing it to drop out of orbit for its 54-minute ride back to the steppe of Kazakhstan, where the trio on board the Soyuz descent module will be greeted by the Rosaviatsa search and recovery forces, including the NASA embedded team that is going to be en route to the landing site a short time from now in a variety of Russian Mi-8 helicopters. Here in Mission Control, Flight Director Garrett Hahn is on orbit at this hour. He's joined on console by spacecraft communicator Luca Parmitano, a veteran of Soyuz missions to the International Space Station. They are working in concert with the flight control team at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov on the outskirts of Moscow. You see a view from a balcony camera overlooking the large flight control room, as they are in communications with the Soyuz crew, as they will be during the bulk of the descent back to the landing site. Communications will be handed off at some point to a fixed-wing Antonov 26 aircraft that will be flying around the perimeter of the landing site, relaying both voice communications and data back to the control center there in Korolyov for the Russian flight controllers to assess. We'll be going through all of the timeline activities here in a moment. First, a quick look at the departing crew that is just a little bit away from its deorbit burn and entry back into the Earth's atmosphere. Alexey Ovchinin, the veteran Soyuz commander, in the center seat of the descent module, flanked to his left by Ivan Vagner and to his right by NASA flight engineer Don Pettit. Pettit will have logged 220 days in space at the time of his landing, a total of 590 days in space on his 4 space flights. Alexey Ovchinin, with 220 days in space on this mission, will have totaled 595 days in space on his 4 flights. And Ivan Vagner, completing his 2nd space flight to the International Space Station, will have totaled 416 days in space on his pair of excursions to the International Outpost.
Meanwhile, I would like to welcome our moderators joining here, Fairmaid and Pop Tripika. Welcome back again. Well, Pop Tripika, this is also my favorite part, but it's a little bit long, unfortunately. But well, we got to have special views in the end, where we will be having the crew to see getting out from the Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft.
And then the Soyuz hatch on the other side of the docking interface.
Also would like to welcome Duncan Stewart once again. Thanks for tuning in, Duncan. We are right now in the re-entry phase for the spacecraft.
You see on the right side of your screen, Japan
and also would like to welcome everyone joining us for the final live coverage of the Soyuz MS-26 return back to Earth with the re-entry and landing.
Until his return to Earth with the Crew 10 crew later this year. The hatch to the Soyuz vehicle swung closed at 1:52 p.m. Central Time, 2:52 p.m. Eastern Time, to set into motion all of the systems checks that ultimately resulted in the undocking of the Soyuz from the International Space Station.
Right now on your screen, who didn't join us earlier, are the views of the time when just before the Soyuz spacecraft was about to be having its hatch closure.
The Soyuz
Crewmates greeting and bidding farewell to each other.
As the station and Soyuz flew 260 miles over southern Mongolia. There were a couple of separation burns that increased the velocity for the Soyuz's departure from the vicinity of the International Space Station, putting it now some 41 kilometers away from the station for the deorbit burn that is scheduled to occur just over 20 minutes from now.
Once again, just to remind you, previously Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft's hatch closed at 2:52 p.m. Eastern Daytime, 18:52 hours UTC, and the crew members were all set for their departure and the undocking from the orbital outpost, which occurred at 5:57 p.m. Eastern Daytime, 21:57 hours UTC. And as of now, we are waiting for the deorbit burn scheduled for approximately 8:26 p.m. Eastern Daytime, 0:26 hours UTC, and the landing is scheduled for 9:20 p.m. Eastern Daytime, 1:20 hours UTC on Steppe of Kazakhstan. And notably, the landing will be occurring on Pettit's 70th birthday, the NASA's most oldest and active astronaut as of now. These views are from the previous stream where we got to see the undocking of the Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft.
4-minute, 41-second retrograde firing of the Soyuz engine to allow it to drop out of orbit for its descent back into the atmosphere. 23 minutes after the deorbit burn, there will be the pyrotechnic separation of the three sections of the Soyuz vehicle. The crew remaining, of course, in the center section, the descent module, with its heat shield repelling the heat that will build up to some 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit around the spacecraft. Once the vehicle has entered through the atmosphere, a drogue chute will be deployed and in turn will pull out the main parachute, that large orange and white parachute that you're familiar seeing on our broadcasts of previous Soyuz landings. That drag chute will slow the descent rate of the Soyuz down considerably, and then just a moment before touchdown, soft landing engines will fire to soften the impact on the ground, and the Soyuz crew will be home. The interesting part about the parachutes, the two pilot parachutes are first deployed, the second of which extracts the drogue chute. That drogue chute, once released, measures 24 square meters, slowing the Soyuz down from a descent rate of 230 meters per second to just 80 meters per second. The main parachute is then released, a huge chute covering an area of some 1,000 meters, slowing the Soyuz to a descent rate of just over 7 meters per second. Its harnesses first allow the Soyuz to descend at an angle, a canted angle, of some 30 degrees to expel heat, then shifts the Soyuz to a straight vertical descent. Once again, that pinpoint of light you're seeing is the Soyuz MS-26. We are inside 17 minutes until the deorbit burn. Just to give you some time hacks coming up on events to come, the deorbit burn again scheduled at 7:27 and 7 seconds p.m. Central Time, 8:27 and 7 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. 4 minute 41 second engine firing to act as a braking maneuver to slow the Soyuz down by 128 meters per second. 23 minutes after the deorbit burn, at 7:55 p.m., rounding it off, we should see the separation of the three sections of the Soyuz, as we just mentioned earlier in the animation. 3 minutes after the module separation, the vehicle will enter the Earth's atmosphere at an altitude of 326,800 feet. The crew on board will feel the first sensation of Earth's gravity in 220 days at that point. And about 1:30 after entry interface, as it is called, the vehicle will enter into the plasma regime, basically a big fireball that is generated around the vehicle, with the heat being repelled by the Soyuz heat shield. That plasma regime that the vehicle will be in is about 5 minutes in duration. We do expect a blackout period in communications until the vehicle descends past that period of peak heating and moves into a area in a lower regime in the atmosphere. Once the vehicle exits the plasma regime, we should see maximum G loads building up on the crew, some 4 to 5 Gs, at an altitude of 21 miles above the Earth. The command to begin the opening of the chutes that we just described should occur at 8:06 and 28 seconds p.m. Central Time, 9:06 and 28 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. The landing itself is scheduled at 8:20 and 44 seconds p.m. Central, 9:20 and 44 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. That will be 6:20 and 44 seconds a.m. at the landing site in Kazakhstan, some 91 miles to the southeast of the town of Dzhezkazgan. The current coordinates predicted by the ballistics folks at the Russian Mission Control Center call for the landing to occur at 47 degrees 19 minutes north latitude, 69 degrees and 34 minutes east longitude. The landing to occur 56 minutes after sunrise at the landing site. The weather at the landing site is good, some 44 degrees Fahrenheit in temperature, just a few clouds overhead, some partly cloudy skies throughout the course of the overnight hours at the landing site. Hopefully we will have good visibility as the Soyuz descends under its main parachute.
Well, that's true, Pop Pickup. They will be tired, and of course, after feeling the gravitational field, the strength of the Earth, they will be having really some trouble, and they need assistance. And we did saw in previous Soyuz missions. And Fram 2, well, it was an exception. Even in Dragon space missions, which are long space duration missions, we do need assistance. But in Fram 2, it was purposely did like it was well like previously like it was made to be like this, that so that they will be assessing that during a splashdown how the things goes if the crew has to come out and without any assistance. At least it was written on their website when I was checking. After that, I didn't follow much of that mission.
They are either en route to the landing site or have landed at the interim staging city of Dzhezkazgan and will be taking off at the time of the deorbit burn, which is about 12.5 minutes from now. Those helicopters will arrive at the landing site in tandem, forming a circular racetrack pattern around the landing site. Communications between Soyuz and a fixed-wing aircraft, the Antonov 26, will be in play to relay data and voice to the Russian Mission Control Flight Control Team in Korolyov outside of Moscow. Once the Soyuz lands, those Russian Mi-8 helicopters will land in rapid-fire succession in a sequential fashion so that the recovery process of safing the vehicle and extracting the crew can be accomplished. The crew will be placed in 3 chairs, if you will, for an opportunity for the 3 crew members to begin to get their land legs back as they readapt to Earth's gravity before they are carried in those chairs into a nearby inflatable medical tent that will be set up so they can get out of their Sokol launch and entry suits into more comfortable flight clothing. They then will be brought to 3 separate helicopters to be flown back to the staging city of Karaganda, where a NASA plane is waiting for Don Pettit to return him to the Johnson Space Center. Ovchinin and Vagner will return in a Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center aircraft to be flown back to their training base and their homes in Star City, Russia, outside of Moscow.
1 minute till IKV inhibit command is going to be issued. Copy, and we confirm.
About what command they said.
The orbit burn begins, you will hear Alexey Ovchinin, the Soyuz commander, who is in the center seat of the Soyuz, flanked to his left by Vagner, to his right by Pettit. Ovchinin will be calling out the delta velocity, or the change in velocity, all the way up to 128 meters per second, and the reduction in chamber pressure in the Soyuz engine as it expends fuel for the braking maneuver of 4 minutes and 41 seconds in duration to slow the Soyuz down and allow it to drop out of orbit.
Here, just like a fun fact you can say, and to give you a context, but it's not for the Soyuz MS spacecraft, it's for the Soyuz TM series. When that Soyuz TM series spacecraft, during its descent phase, it undergoes 12 Gs at max, and which reduces to 5G thanks to the soft landing mechanism and those engines firing up at the end, and of course the drogue shoots everything. This 12 Gs are reduced to 5 Gs, and the current version of the Soyuz is the MS spacecraft, and hope you guys will be knowing that the MS stands for Modified Systems, with many smaller technological upgrades to make the spacecraft lighter and more modern. For example, halogen lights have been replaced with the LEDs, and previously in the previous stream we were hearing those Capcom communications about turning off the LEDs and stuff, and a newer and larger solar panel to increase the power generation. So that's the modified systems for the Soyuz MS spacecraft, and the modifications being made in this series.
That is a Russian term for a riverboat or a barge puller that existed in the 17th century Russian Empire, burlak.
Well, burlak is the call sign for the Soyuz MS-26 mission. While we are watching this view of the Russian mission control, let me quickly describe a little bit about the Soyuz spacecraft. Soyuz is made up of 3 modules: the service, the orbital, and the reentry modules. The orbital module, the tip of the spacecraft, carries the equipment necessary to dock with the International Space Station. The service module, the lower part, transports among the things, telecommunication, altitude control equipment, and coupling of the solar panels. And in middle is the descent module, is where the astronaut travel and is the only section that re-enters the atmosphere. The orbital module breaks up during the re-entry. The journey of the Soyuz to the International Space Station can last 6 hours or 2 days depending on the mission profile. But the return journey, in contrast, lasts only 3 hours. Normally, the descent module touches down on Earth at a velocity of less than 2 miles per second. The habitable space in the descent module is just 4 cubic meters. It's not spacious as that of SpaceX Dragon. The descent module weighs around 2.9 tons.
So we need time with like minutes, seconds. Please.
Later on your screen on the left hand side is a schematic diagram for the descent module, so that you will be having a better perspective of knowing the descent module. As the Soyuz approaches the Earth's atmosphere, it undergoes this critical process of separating the three modules.
Maneuver display. Monitoring.
They will be controlled by the pyrotechnics. The modules will be separated using explosive bolts, which ensures a clean and safe detachment. And during the re-entry, as the Soyuz enters the Earth's atmosphere, it encounters intense friction, causing the external temperature to rise dramatically. The descent module's ablative heat shield will protect the crew from the extreme heat, reaching temperatures of up to 1600 degrees, that is 2900 Fahrenheit. During the re-entry, the Soyuz experiences a brief communication blackout due to the ionized gases forming around the capsule. You can see the plasma as it descends through the atmosphere.
Upper section of the 3-section Soyuz vehicle, it will be depressurized 10 seconds after the completion of the deorbit burn, setting the stage for its separation pyrotechnically that will occur some 23 minutes after the completion of the deorbit burn.
Today, the Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft departed from the International Space Station from the Razvet module. Razvet means the first light, a dawn or sunrise in Russian.
4 minutes now until the start of the deorbit burn. Everything in good shape. Once the deorbit burn is complete, we'll have a few more details about the entry profile for the Soyuz MS-26. The Russian Mi-8 helicopters will be taking off from the interim staging point in Dzhezkazgan right around the time of the deorbit burn. That will time them to arrive in sequence, in sync with the arrival of the Soyuz under its large main chute. The Russian Mi-8 helicopters will form a welcoming party, if you will, in a racetrack pattern, or flying around the landing site, awaiting the arrival of the Soyuz. And once it touches down, so will the Russian helicopters in quick sequential fashion to begin the process of arriving at the spacecraft to safe the vehicle and extract the crew.
After returning to Earth, the three crew members will fly on a helicopter, as you just heard, from the landing site to the recovery staging city of the Karaganda, Kazakhstan. Pettit will board a NASA plane and return to Houston, while Ovchinin and Vagner will depart from a training base in Star City in Russia. Let the deorbit burn to be complete. We are just minutes away from that. Then we will be a little bit talking about the Don Pettit's science and his accomplishments. Here at AstroYonder, those who have joined us today for the stream, we welcome you with all our heart, and we are so much grateful that you guys are with us today. And here, adding value to your viewing experience is our top priority. If you feel we are somewhat achieving that, please consider liking this stream. It really helps YouTube's algorithm bring in more space lovers like you, and helps others to find out this stream. about the deorbit burn. The Soyuz relies on its SKD main engine, a liquid-fueled engine designed for orbital correction and deorbit burns. It uses the same hypergolic propellant, UDMH, and nitrogen tetraoxide. UDMH, it means that unsymmetrical dimethyl hydrazine, which is a fuel. So UDMH and the nitrogen tetroxide as the DPO thrusters. The deorbit burn lasts about 4 to 5 minutes and reduces the spacecraft's velocity by about 115 meters per second. This velocity change is necessary to lower the spacecraft periaphis, the lowest point in its orbit, into the Earth's atmosphere. And we are right now waiting for that burn. It is the deorbit burn.
Off we go home. Yep. SKD 03.
Deorbit burn now in progress.
Activation confirmed.
Once again, a 4-minute, 41-second retrograde maneuver. The burn is underway.
Copy.
So there we go. The deorbit burn is now underway. The deorbit burn is timed so that the Soyuz re-enters Earth's atmosphere at a precise location, typically over a target recovery area in Kazakhstan. This burn is initiated about half an orbit before landing. After deorbit burn, Soyuz continues to coast for a period, aligning itself for the atmospheric re-entry.
All the way up to 128 meters per second and changes in the chamber pressure on the Soyuz engine.
1 minute, 26.6 meters per second. 044 is the delta V. KDU parameters are nominal. Copy. 1 minute, 15 seconds. 33 meters. 044 is the delta V. Copy. 1 minute 30, 39.8, and 044 is the delta V. KDU parameters are nominal.
Two minutes into the burn, everything looking good.
And 2 minutes down.
Just 2 minutes is left for the completion of the deorbit burn. Meanwhile, would like to welcome I Smell. Thanks for tuning in. Well, I don't smell, it's the name of that person joining us. Well, I won't get into that controversy of the flat earth and the curve. Well, but it's certainly that it is having curve, and images are not coming right now. There are some technical things for that only, else we would have got that images.
Coming up on 3 minutes into the burn, all parameters looking very good.
Time tag past 3 minutes, 79.6 meters, 0.45. This is the delta V acceleration, and KDU parameters are nominal. Copy.
Отработали 3 минуты, 90...
3 minutes of faster firing, 94.6 meters per second, and the KDU parameters are nominal.
1 minute of deorbit burn time left. All the parameters looking very good, according to the Russian flight controllers in Korolyov.
Отработали
in time 4 minutes.
108,9 метров в секунду.
108.9 meters per second, and schedule parameters are nominal. Copy.
As per the Capcoms, everything is working as intended. Everything is fine there. And indeed, Soyuz is a state of art, and you can say it's an engineering marvel.
We're standing by.
Still in 2025, it's in action. So
the command has been executed. The command and thermal sensors are on, activated. The separation is confirmed. Copy.
And we have the completion of the deorbit burn with a perfect change in velocity of 128 meters per second. Don Pettit, Alexey, Ovchinin, Ivan Vagner on the way home.
Confirmed. Switching to the
information of the deorbit burn. Next will be a coast phase for the Soyuz spacecraft, aligning itself for the atmospheric reentry. Followed that, we will be having the separation of the 3 modules of the Soyuz spacecraft.
And the orbital module pressure is dropping. Copy.
Guess we are getting into that phase.
The upper section of the Soyuz is being depressurized to vacuum to set the stage for the pyrotechnic separation of the 3 sections of Soyuz 21 minutes and 44 seconds from now.
KSS rescue aids ready mode. Please repeat your last. I think we can stow the RHC. We can start stowing it.
So with the successful completion of the deorbit burn, next up is the separation of those 3 sections of the Soyuz, the upper section being the orbital module. The lower section is the instrumentation and propulsion module. The crew is strapped into their seats in the center section called the descent module, which is the only surviving section of the 3-section Soyuz. Alexey Ovchinin, the Soyuz commander, strapped into the center seat, flanked to his left by Ivan Vagner and Don Pettit to his right. The search and recovery forces, including the NASA team of support personnel, will be arriving in the vicinity of the landing site a short time from now. We're about 46 minutes away from our expected touchdown of Soyuz MS-26 at a point 91 miles to the southeast of the remote village of Dzhezkazgan. Once the landing has occurred, the search and recovery teams will move toward the vehicle, will ensure that no toxic gases are emanating from the spacecraft before they begin the process of opening up the hatch and extracting the crew one by one. The particular order of extraction and the time it takes to extract the crew may be somewhat dependent on whether the vehicle lands upright or on its side. We've seen it both ways. Once the crew is out of the vehicle, they'll be placed in chairs brought alongside of the spacecraft.
Well, extraction of the crew from the
To enable the 3 crew members
extraction of the crews from the Soyuz is really a little cumbersome, as the hatch or from where they are making the crew out is really narrow. We did saw it earlier. Well, one thing would like to mention here, that during the re-entry, as I mentioned before, the spacecraft experiences a communication blackout due to the plasma, or you can say the ionized gases building up around the module, typically lasting several minutes. And at that point, the attitude control system ensures that the descent module maintains the correct orientation with the heat shield facing forward to absorb the intense heat of the reentry. After the reentry at an altitude of about 10.5 kilometers, approximately 6.5 miles, the drogue parachutes deploy first to slow the spacecraft's descent. These are followed by the main parachutes, a large red and white. It's not red, it's actually orange, I guess. Yes. That significantly reduces the descent speed. The parachutes slow the Soyuz from about 230 meters per second to a descent rate of around 7.2 meters per second. As the spacecraft descends, the heat shield is jettisoned, exposing the soft landing engines and the landing sensors. This sensor helps prepare the Soyuz for its final descent. Just before the touchdown, at around 1 meters above the ground, the soft landing engines, solid fuel rockets, fire to further reduce the speed of descent to about 1.5 meters per second. While the landing is relatively gentle, it can still be a little bit harsh for the crew. It depends what the conditions and how those landing engines performs during the final descent.
Pre-programmed command that will separate the orbital and instrumentation and propulsion modules from the center section or the descent module in which the three crew members are strapped in their seats.
Moscow. Moscow.
Now actually we are in the
Excellent.
blackout period. I guess so, because you can hear the Capcom taking the call sign name Burlock.
This is Moscow. How do you read me?
The Soyuz is about 100 kilometers away from the International Space Station, as we are about at the fringe of guaranteed voice communications between the spacecraft and the station. The sequence of events, again calling for the separation of the three sections of the Soyuz less than 15 minutes from now. If everything goes as planned, the main parachute deployment sequence will begin just under 26 minutes from now, with touchdown southeast of Dzhezkazgan, Kazakhstan, just over 40 minutes from now.
We are 40 minutes away from the touchdown of the Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft. Right now, we are waiting for
this blackout
module separation.
Is typical and is to be expected. The next guaranteed communications of any solid sort will be after the Soyuz leaves the regime of peak heating, or the exit from plasma, as it is called, when communications are then relayed between the Soyuz and the Antonov fixed-wing aircraft that serves as a flying relay station, if you will, around the landing site to relay data and voice back to the Russian flight control team there in Korolyov. There could be bits and pieces of choppy communications between now and then, so we'll be standing by for further updates as we approach the 13-minute mark until the module separation command is given for the pyrotechnic separation of the three sections of the Soyuz MS-26.
Burlaki, Moscow, how do you read me?
Actually, this part of the crew return on the Soyuz or any spacecraft is quite critical, because at this point even the mission control doesn't know what things are going on about the spacecraft, as because there is no communication between the spacecraft with the mission control. And this blackout period for the communication is expected one. It's nothing abnormal. So as of now, it seems to be good, everything.
Burlaki, how do you read Moscow? Moscow, you're coming in with interference, and how us? We have you loud and clear, Burlaki.
So the mission control could hear the crew aboard this spacecraft.
Later than 0348, the KSS rescue aid should be switched to readiness mode, and you also should close your helmet visors and switch rescue aids to automatic mode. Copy. And just a reminder, please release transmit buttons right before the separation, and you can use the transmit button going forward without locking it. How copy, Burlaki?
So again, as we just mentioned, brief bursts of communications between the Russian flight control team and Alexey Ovchinin under the call sign of Burlak, as is his call sign for his Soyuz vehicle, the MS-26, as it barrels toward the landing site southeast of Dzhezkazgan. The module separation command expected about 10.5 minutes from now.
Well, that's true about Rebecca. As I said, this is the scariest part, but I guess we overcame that, as we heard the mission from the flight control team giving commands to the Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft crew members.
Don Pettit will have logged 590 days in space on his 4 space flights. Alexey Ovchinin, 595 days on his 4 flights. And Ivan Vagner, 416 days in space on his 2 missions to the International Space Station.
We are less than 9 minutes approximately from the separation of the 3 modules of the Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft. Meanwhile, you guys enjoy the stream. I will just take a short break. I'm sitting here from more than 5-6 hours, so you guys enjoyed the stream. I'm just joining you guys within some minutes.
McLean and Ayers earlier in the day on Saturday were busy in the Quest airlock of the International Space Station, continuing preparations for a spacewalk that they have planned on May 1st. We will be providing a briefing to preview that spacewalk this coming Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Just over 8.5 minutes now until our expected separation of the three sections of the Soyuz. Hopefully, we will be getting confirmation of that through telemetry received at the Russian Mission Control Center, or if we're fortunate enough, through a quick burst of voice confirmation from Ovchinin on board Soyuz MS-26.
Burlaki, 8 minutes remaining to separation.
Pettit, Ovchinin, and Vagner began an 11-day handover with NASA's Johnny Kim and Roscosmos cosmonauts Sergei Ryzhikov and Alexey Zabritsky after they were launched on April 8th, arriving at the station on a two-orbit rendezvous profile. This is very typical and maintains a continuous human presence aboard the International Space Station that will approach a quarter-century, 25-year milestone on November 2nd of this year. The predicted landing time is 8:20 and 44 seconds p.m. Central Time, which is 6:20 and 44 seconds a.m. Kazakhstan time on April 20th, 56 minutes after sunrise. Partly cloudy skies at the landing site, temperatures around 44 degrees Fahrenheit. To greet Pettit, Ovchinin, and Vagner. Coming up on 5 minutes until module separation. The module separation will occur at an altitude of 87 miles above the Earth. Three minutes after module separation, we should move into the upper reaches of the Earth's atmosphere at 326,800 feet, where G-forces will begin building up on the three crew members who have been devoid of gravity for the past 220 days. Coming up on 2 minutes until module separation. The updated landing coordinates predicted by the ballistics folks at the Russian Mission Control Center for the Soyuz MS-26 calls for landing to occur at a latitude of 47 degrees 19 minutes north, 69 degrees 33 minutes east longitude.
Visually monitor separation.
The Russian Mi-8 helicopters and the Antonov fixed-wing aircraft are just about in position in a racetrack pattern around the landing site as they await the sight of the Soyuz MS-26 under its chutes. Module separation now a minute and a half away.
Buraki minus 1 minute and 14 seconds to separation. Be ready to turn on BIOS power.
Just about 40 seconds away from expected separation of the 3 sections of the Soyuz vehicle.
Buraki, minus 30 seconds to separation. Please prepare for a separation.
All quiet here in the flight control room at Mission Control in Houston, standing by. And the data that has been received in the Russian Mission Control Center confirms a good module separation.
Buraki, 2 minutes 30 seconds remain to re-entry.
So with the module separation having been confirmed, the next expected milestone will be the initiation of the opening of the chutes about 10.5 minutes from now. The parachute deployment sequence is triggered by a barometric pressure sensor at an altitude of 41,000 feet. At this point, the main parachute cover is jettisoned by pyros and springs. That pulls out 2 extraction chutes, which in turn pulls out the drogue chute. That in turn pulls out the main chute. This whole process takes about 20 seconds to occur. Then, at an altitude of 21,000 feet, a barometric pressure sensor starts a timer that triggers most of the remaining events in the landing sequence. At an altitude of just 18,000 feet, the commands are issued to jettison the heat shield, inhibit the entry thrusters, and to open valves to vent all the hydrogen peroxide fuel for the entry thrusters and the oxygen in the life support system tank. If we have video of the Soyuz under the chutes at that point, the white vapor you will see is normal. That's a combination of hydrogen peroxide and oxygen venting into the air. The purpose of this is to safe the vehicle for landing. The recovery teams do not want hazardous gases to remain in those tanks when the soft landing thrusters work and the vehicle impacts the ground. This way, the ground support team can approach the vehicle immediately and know that they have a safe vehicle that they are continuing the recovery process for. The Soyuz MS-26 should have begun its entry into the Earth's atmosphere at an altitude of about 326,800 feet. In about 2 minutes, peak heating will begin around the vehicle at an altitude of some 50 miles above the Earth. Temperatures around the Soyuz expected to build to some 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit. If everything goes as planned, we're some 7.5 minutes away from the expected deployment sequence of the parachutes. Touchdown less than 22 minutes from now. "20 seconds away from peak heating on the vehicle."
The crew is unintelligible.
Garbled conversations coming from the Soyuz MS-26. This expected as the vehicle has entered the period of peak heating. That should last about 5 minutes. Inside 6 minutes until the expected deployment of the Soyuz chutes, 20 minutes until touchdown.
Hello there, I'm back. I guess I missed the module separation, and right now I think the vehicle is in the re-entry phase and having the phase of peak heating around the vehicle. On completion of the re-entry, we will be expecting the comms from the crew members on board. From US Pop Replica, we should be expecting that soon. After the re-entry will be completed, then the orbital module and the instrumentation and the propulsion module destruction will take place.
3.5 minutes until the expected time of chute opening. Everything continues to go by the timeline, by the book, for the Soyuz MS-26. 18 minutes until touchdown.
We are 18 minutes from the touchdown. So meanwhile, let me just quickly say something about Don Pettit's science, which he did previously. NASA astronaut Don Pettit, who is the oldest and the active astronaut as of now. He will be turning into 70 at the time of landing. He built a barn door tracker using spare parts he found on the International Space Station during his stay aboard the station on Expedition 6. The device helps counter the station's movement relative to Earth's surface, allowing a person to capture clearer, high-resolution images of the city lights at night. You can check some of his pictures taken this time of these city lights at night. They are really spectacular.
Likely to hear once we come out of this blackout period is the beep 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 of a radio beacon.
Burlakian, CC Moscow. How do you copy? Loud and clear. Max G is 4.26. It's dropping. And atmospheric miss was 6 seconds. And T reentry 03, 5927. And the integral is plus 16. Everything is fine on board, and the crew is feeling good.
Right on the money. Alexey Ovchinin reporting that they have emerged from the peak heating period. We are standing by for the deployment of parachutes about a minute and a half from now. And as I just mentioned, you're hearing that radio beacon that is sending out location data to the Antonov fixed-wing aircraft that is flying around the vicinity of the landing site southeast of the town of Dzhezkazgan.
There we go. We got the communication back from the crew on board the space on the MS-26 spacecraft. Alexey Ovchinin providing the communication from that end, and right now, as we just heard, we are waiting for the parachutes deployment about 1.5 minutes from now. Hopefully we will be getting the views as well that time.
I am standing by at 040617. I am standing by for OSP priming.
Also, the Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft overcome the max G point, and the G on the vehicle on the spacecraft is right now dropping.
We should be at the point where the parachute deployment sequence should have begun. Some 14 minutes away from our expected touchdown time.
Usually at this time around, we should be getting the views on. Yes, I think on the screen you can see the animation on the mission control. The parachutes, I think they got deployed, but we are yet to receive a visual confirmation. So I was talking about some of the science that Don performed. He also came up with the 0G coffee cup, which uses the wetting angle to guide liquid along a crease, eliminating the need for a straw. That invention was featured in May 2009 issue of National Geographic, where he discussed how the cup's design relates to the wetting angle of different materials, and the cup became the first object invented in space to receive a patent. Paprika, we all are expecting for that. Why today they are not providing that visuals? But anyhow, we will be getting the visual just. And there we go, we got the visuals out there. Would like to welcome Tostoy Joost. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. If not, then my apologies. Thanks for tuning in. Well, no, maybe for some reasons they stopped the audio feed for us, but the comms are on, of course. They will be communicating with the crew members on the spacecraft. Right now on your screen, you can see those helicopters for the recovery. They are heading at the recovery position, and they will be circling around there as we heard previously.
Main chute has been deployed, so everything continues to proceed in a nominal fashion as we are about 10 minutes and 50 seconds away from touchdown.
Well, those de-juiced, the parachutes have deployed, and we will be getting the views. Nothing to get anxious about that. Sooner they will be providing. I think it's not coming right now in the field of view of a camera or something, but it's a little bit unusual for me. Generally, at this point, we should be getting the visuals. Let's see if they will be saying some clarifications about that.
Vagner are just moments away from wrapping up their 220-day, 93.3 million mile mission. Once again, this view courtesy of Roscosmos, showing Russian Mi-8 helicopters circling the vicinity of the landing site. That view is intermittent at this point until we have a solid view of the Soyuz under its chutes.
The crew is unintelligible.
9.5 minutes until touchdown, everything continuing to go well. Again, we have confirmation through the search and recovery forces and the Russian Mi-8 helicopters. They have a visual on the Soyuz under its chute as we approach the 9-minute mark until touchdown.
We got the confirmation from those helicopters hovering at the landing site that they got the visuals of the Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft descending with the help of parachutes.
Now we have more video from the landing site. As you can see, the skies are somewhat overcast. This is 91 miles to the southeast of the remote town of Dzhezkazgan.
As the spacecraft descends, the heat shield will be jettisoned. I think it also got done, exposing the soft landing engines and landing sensors. These sensors will help the final Soyuz to prepare for its final descent.
With somewhat overcast skies at the landing site, the temperature is about 44 degrees Fahrenheit. So the search and recovery forces are in that racetrack pattern around the landing site, awaiting the touchdown of Soyuz some 8 minutes from now.
We are about 8 minutes from the touchdown. It means Don Pettit is now of 70 years. The most oldest and active astronaut for NASA as of now. Well, I was reading some stuff about his work about the International Space Station that about 8 terabytes of data has been collected by him about various images and videos, and about 1% of that we got to see as of now.
Everything going very well. The
So
module separation
in future, keep an eye on his social media handle. You will be getting amazed with every post he makes.
As you're looking at landing site video under overcast skies, one of the reasons we haven't seen the Soyuz up to this point under its chutes, as we are accustomed to seeing. Touchdown just over 6.5 minutes from now.
So for the sky conditions, we couldn't see the Soyuz with the parachutes descending for its landing. But I guess as it will be getting closer to the landing site, we will be getting that visual also. Just before the touchdown, at around 1 meters above the ground, the soft landing engines will fire to further reduce the speed of descent, which is now already being reduced so much with the help of the drogue chutes, parachutes.
Helicopters are en route, and everything's nominal.
And that report indicating the altitude of the Soyuz continuing its descent on time under its main parachute. Some 3,700 meters off the ground, 5 minutes until touchdown.
So those landing engines that will fire and further reduce the speed of the descent of the spacecraft to about 1.5 meters per second, while the landing is expected right now.
But because it's overcast on this Sunday morning in Kazakhstan, on Don Pettit's 70th birthday, this view as we await a visual on the Soyuz prior to touchdown.
Well, I can't see any view of the Soyuz. I'm just seeing those Mi-8 helicopters there circling around the landing site.
Okay, 1500, copy.
Once again, this is a live view about 1 hour after sunrise at the landing site in Kazakhstan on a Sunday morning.
1000 will let him know. Sure will.
You can see Russian Mi-8 helicopters in the vicinity of the landing zone. We're still awaiting a visual on the Soyuz.
Burlak 1, our data says the altitude is 1,400, 1,400.
1,400 meters above the ground, according to the ballistic team at the Russian Mission Control Center.
We're feeling great.
The crew reports it's feeling great. Alexey Ovchinin, Don Pettit, and Ivan Vagner just minutes away from landing on terra firma.
Well, Bob Tripika, of course, we will be getting the views of touchdown. Don't be heartbroken. We will also get the views of the Soyuz descending with the help of the parachutes. As we just heard about the altitude at which they are now, and at least in a layman term, they are above the helicopters and the field of view we are getting on screen. So just keep an eye on the top of your screen. All of a sudden you will be getting the view of the Soyuz.
I can see you. I follow you. Copy.
Космос, бурлаки чувствуют хорошо, прошли 900 метров.
The Burlaks are feeling great and they've just passed the milestone of 900.
About a minute and a half until touchdown. The Soyuz descending through 900 meters.
600. Copy.
Even the person on the camera is searching, and there we go. Look, here they are, and that person is showing that place to see.
Until touchdown, everything looking good.
Высота, Леонидович. Так, 300 метров всего объект проходит.
300 meters right now.
300 meters.
Сопровождаю пока.
There's a Russian Mi-8 helicopter. That will be one of the first helos to land after the Soyuz touches down.
So finally we are having the view of the Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft. On board the spacecraft is Ivan Vagner, Alexey Ovchinin, cosmonauts, and astronaut Don Pettit for NASA. And there we go, we have the touchdown.
Soyuz MS-26 is home at 8:20 p.m. Central Time, 6:20 a.m. Kazakhstan time on Sunday morning. Don Pettit ends his 7-month mission on his 70th birthday.
It's really a thrilling moment and a happy moment.
It's on the ground, on the side.
Заходи первый, я на повтор. Понял. А где крышка, кто-то видит?
And I hope you guys noticed during the touchdown a flash of fire. That was not for the touchdown with a high velocity. It was for those solid fuel rockets firing up to further reduce the speed of the descent to about 1.5 meters per second. So everything is fine. Rest assured, don't get panicked by seeing that fire.
Will begin to move toward the vehicle. So we will lose video for a short period of time until that truck has repositioned itself near the Soyuz capsule. Once again, landing occurring at 8:20 p.m. Central Time, 6:20 a.m. Kazakhstan time on Easter Sunday. Pettit, Ovchinin, and Vagner are back on Earth after 220 days in space and a mission of 93.3 million statute miles. As you can see, the Russian Mi-8 helicopters are beginning to land, as is the plan. The first personnel will be from RSC Energia, working in tandem with the Rosaviatsa search and recovery forces to begin to approach the vehicle, making sure it is safe, free of toxic gas emissions, before they begin the process of extracting the crew. We'll also find out here shortly whether the vehicle landed upright or was pulled on its side.
Go back to your original position.
Now we are heading close for the recovery operations. We made a touchdown, a successful one. Recovery team on its way.
So
The crew will be extracted from the descent module and the initial medical checks will be performed in an inflatable medical camp on site. Then the crew will be transported to the Karaganda by helicopters for further checks before being flown back to their respective space agencies. Returning back from the International Space Station is not a matter of joke. Human body goes through a lot, like for an example, electrolytic disbalance, dehydration, muscle cramps. Then also it has to adapt to the re-entry, going through a huge maximum amount of G as the vehicle travels in such speed as it re-enters the atmosphere. And to all these problems, only one solution is there, is salt tablets. I hope you guys remember the Oleg Kononenko's stay aboard the International Space Station, where Oleg Novyetsky and who it was, Marina Vasilevskaya and Laurel O'Hara, when they returned that time, they were mentioning about these salt tablets, which plays a crucial role for astronauts during their space missions, also including their return from the International Space Station.
Выключился. Первый выключил. Прям за аппаратом выходи.
This is Mission Control Houston. Once again, you're looking at the front screen at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov outside Moscow, and the graphic on their center screen with the words, Есть посадка, they've landed, as they did at 8:20 p.m. Central Time, 9:20 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:20 a.m. Kazakhstan time on Sunday morning on Don Pettit's 70th birthday.
The landing occurred approximately 8 minutes from the planned one. 18 minutes after from the planned one, which was initially planned for 9:20 p.m. Eastern Daytime. But in actual it happened at 9:28 p.m. Eastern Daytime, if I heard them right. Well, Fairmed, you will be feeling more good by seeing them getting out from the crew spacecraft. So wait for that. Right now we are waiting for the recovery operations as well as the team to reach at the landing site so that we can get the visuals from the Soyuz spacecraft.
This is Mission Control Houston. As we mentioned a moment or two ago, the video from the landing site deconfigured for the moment while the television truck belonging to the search and recovery forces moves toward the capsule. The Soyuz MS-26 landing and being pulled over onto its side. That was confirmed by the Rosaviatsa recovery team. Landing occurring at 8:20 p.m. Central Time, 9:20 p.m. Eastern, 6:20 a.m. Kazakhstan time. All of the deorbit events went as planned.
Oh, I was wrong. The landing time was as per it was scheduled, 9:20 p.m. Eastern Daytime. So it's on time.
Through all of the entry activities, the module separation, in which the three sections of the Soyuz separated from each other pyrotechnically, the descent through the atmosphere, the parachute deployment sequence, that all went by the book, resulting in a touchdown just about 56 minutes after sunrise on Sunday morning at the landing site in Kazakhstan, some 91 miles to the southeast of Dzhezkazgan. The Russian Mi-8 helicopters have descended. They're all on the ground now, as they will begin to make their way toward the spacecraft to ensure that it is safe before other personnel approach the vehicle to begin the extraction of the crew.
Now we are waiting for those close-up views of the Soyuz spacecraft now being landed successfully, as the television truck, as they are saying the term, is yet about to arrive at the landing site.
Is extracted from the spacecraft will include them being placed in 3 chairs alongside the capsule. They'll have a few moments to begin to reacquire their equilibrium following 220 days of weightlessness. Once they are hauled in those chairs into the nearby inflatable medical tent, they'll be helped out of their Sokol launch and entry suits into more comfortable flight clothing, and then brought to 3 separate helicopters to be flown back to Karaganda, Kazakhstan. That's the staging city. That's about a 2-hour, 15-minute helo ride. Once they touch down at the Karaganda airport, Don Pettit will make his way towards the NASA plane that's awaiting on the tarmac. They'll be flown back to the Johnson Space Center in Houston with other NASA personnel. Alexey, Ovchinin, and Ivan Vagner will board a Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center aircraft to be flown back to Star City, Russia, which is their training base and where they have residence. While the Soyuz MS-26 mission has come to a conclusion, Work on board the International Space Station is continuing at a very rapid pace. Early Monday morning is the scheduled launch of the SpaceX CRS-32 cargo mission, the Dragon that will launch atop a Falcon 9 rocket carrying some 7,000 pounds of supplies to the International Space Station. NASA Plus coverage is scheduled to begin at 3:55 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday morning in the wee hours for a launch at 4:15 a.m. Eastern Time. That will set off about a 28-hour rendezvous sequence culminating with a docking to the International Space Station's Harmony Module Zenith port, the space-facing port, at 7:20 a.m. Central, 8:20 a.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday morning. Once again, a view from the field in Kazakhstan of the Russian Mi-8 helicopters that have landed in a circular pattern around the Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft.
Well, the upcoming launch of the SpaceX NROL-145 mission from the Vandenberg, as well as the commercial resupply services mission, the 32nd one to the International Space Station, that will be launching from Launch Complex 39A. Both the streams are posted on our channel, so do check it out. We would love to have you guys back with us there on those streams.
Following the arrival of the SpaceX CRS-32 cargo mission to the International Space Station, this coming Thursday, April 24th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, we will hold a spacewalk preview briefing at the Johnson Space Center, looking towards a spacewalk, US EVA as it's called, 93, that is targeted for May 1st by NASA astronauts Anne McClain and Nicole Ayers to build up a mounting bracket upon which the next series of ISS rollout solar arrays will be delivered on a future flight. They will also move a communications antenna to a different location on the space station to provide more favorable visiting vehicle communications for upcoming missions that will include the launch of the Japanese H2 transfer vehicle, its new version called the HTV-X.
Also, I guess during the spacewalk, they will be placing some atomic clocks that will be getting launched on the CRS-32 mission as a cargo. I think that is named as Traces, something like that. Well, it's ACES, not traces. ACE is the atomic clock and symbol in space that will be attached to the exterior of European Space Agency's Columbus facility on the International Space Station. I guess that will be getting done in the upcoming US Spacewalk 93. We are still yet to get those close-up views of the spacecraft and the crew as those television truck uh, with the recovery team is yet to arrive. Right now here we are waiting for Alexey, Ovchinin, Ivan Vagner and Don Pettit to be extracted from the Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft. Alexey Ovchinin being the commander of Expedition 72.
This is Mission Control.
And there at the ISS now, Onishi is leading the Expedition 73, being the commander. The third one of a Japanese national commanding the ISS right now.
Structure there, that's the inflatable medical tent that the crew will be brought into. And now we're getting video of the landing site. There's Alexey Ovchinin, the Soyuz commander, who has been brought out of the vehicle, first out. 595 days in space on his 4 missions.
We got to see the commander of the mission as well as the past commander of the ISS now being extracted and sitting on a chair next to the spacecraft where it landed. Well, it felt fast at how they managed to extract them. I guess those empty chairs are now will be still, they are yet to extract it. Means the Don Pettit and Roscosmos cosmonaut Ivan Vagner is yet to extract it from the spacecraft.
He was the station commander up until Friday for Expedition 72 before handing over that task to Takoya Onishi, the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut. There's a view of Bill Ingalls, the NASA chief photographer, who's right at the hatchway of the Soyuz vehicle.
Well, that white-bearded man there close to the spacecraft holding the camera was Bill Ingalls, and really his photographs are quite good.
Сейчас проверь, есть шум.
During this Expedition 72, Alexey Ovchinin and his crewmates stayed 220 days aboard the International Space Station. At the time of departure, Ovchinin, he was having a career total of 595 days in total, staying in space and having the extravehicular activity time of 13 hours and 18 minutes with a total of 2 EVAs. Whereas for the Ivan Wagner, these stats are at the time of his departure, he was having the career total of 416 days in space, having extravehicular activity time of 7 hours and 17 minutes with 1 EVA performed, whereas NASA astronaut Don Pettit was having a career total of 590 days in space, 5 days approximately, a little less from compared to Ovchinin, and having EVA time of 13 hours and 17 minutes with a total of 2 EVAs in his career.
On Easter Sunday in Kazakhstan, Alexey Ovchinin peeling a hard-boiled egg. And Don Pettit now being extracted.
Don doesn't seem to look fine. I don't know. Let's see. Just after landing, Ovchinin is having an egg to eat. Don Pettit, NASA astronaut, on his 70th birthday, just got extracted from the MS-26 spacecraft. Now left is Ivan Vagner.
Alexey Ovchinin eating a hard-boiled egg presented to him by the search and recovery forces.
We missed the view of Don Pettit. Why they're showing Alexey Ovchinin so much? He's enjoying the time, fine. But let us see Don.
This is Mission Control Houston. Once again, Ovchinin and Don Pettit of NASA are out of the Soyuz vehicle. Ivan Vagner is the last that is in the process of being extracted.
Whoever the person is controlling the camera view is not such good. He or she, whoever it will be, should be getting a view of Dawn there. I guess this cameraman is obsessed with Ovchinin.
Continuing to receive live television from the Soyuz landing site. Alexey Ovchinin and Don Pettit out of the Soyuz vehicle.
An interview real soon.
Ivan Vagner in the process of being extracted.
Lower, please.
Now, Roscosmos cosmonaut, the last crew member of the Soyuz MS-26 mission got extracted. He looked good and fine in the initial visuals, just getting extracted from the MS-26 spacecraft, but we just got some seconds of visuals from Don. At that time, he somehow just pushed the visors back, and after that, well, to me, he was not looking good enough. So I don't know why they are not showing him.
Сейчас все то. Давай. Отойди в сторону, в сторону.
Move to the side, please.
Назад.
And back.
Of course, he is aged now. On his 70th birthday, he landed, and coming back from the ISS is not an easy process, as I mentioned before. Although it's hard for everyone, but as we know, age makes things to get more harder. And I guess there is something like so much of concern, because else those people would have not roamed around normally. There are various health issues that can show up during the return from the International Space Station. Like I mentioned before, electrolyte imbalance, dehydration, muscle cramps, and many others. So, although the solution for them is there, but it's not, you can't confirm that these things won't be happening. And the solution is just a simple salt tablet.
This is Mission Control Houston. The video again coming to you from the landing site in Kazakhstan, some 91 miles to the southeast of Dzhezkazgan. A bullseye landing for the Soyuz MS-26 on Easter Sunday, Don Pettit's 70th birthday, bringing to an end Pettit, Ovchinin, and Vagner's 220-day mission.
This cameraman is something else. It's impossible. Just he is focusing these two person there. Why not Don? Why would they are not showing us how Don is?
Kazakhstan time on Sunday morning, about 56 minutes after sunrise.
Алексей Николаевич, похожий. Давай. Лёш.
What is called Matryoshka dolls or something. That is even being presented to them, but we are yet to receive visuals for Dawn.
The crew displaying nesting or Matryoshka dolls. This is typical of all Soyuz landings, gifts to the crew members from the search and recovery teams.
It's getting pretty fishy that they are not showing Dawn there. I guess he is not in a good health. Of course, maybe it's not such of a big concern. Or maybe he was immediately moved to those inflatable medical tents or camps set up there on site for the health checkups.
And first to be carried toward the medical tent is...
But this person won't move the camera even to the left where Don was supposed to sit. Oh no.
Once inside the medical tent, the 3 crew members will be helped out of their Sokol launch and entry suits. They'll move into more comfortable flight clothing and will subsequently board helicopters to be flown back to the staging city of Karaganda, Kazakhstan.
And from there, Ovchinin and Ivan Vagner will be heading to the Star City, Russia, whereas Don Pettit will be coming back to Johnson Space Center at Houston. There is no clarification or visuals for Don Pettit after being landed and extracted. During the extraction process, we just got to see him for some seconds, and after that, no visuals of him.
Вова. Ты сейчас будешь провожать?
During this expedition 72, all the 3 crew members stayed aboard the space station for 220 days in space. Don Pettit and his crewmates, Roscosmos cosmonauts Alexey, Ovchinin, and Ivan Vagner, all orbited the Earth 3,520 times and completed a journey of 93.3 million miles over the course of their mission. I don't know whether you guys noticed or not how Ivan Wagner shake the hand of a person there with a high thrust and high speed of hand moving. This kind of problems shows up when a person comes from a long duration mission from the space, because they were accustomed there without any thrust to even throw a big lump of cargo from here to there, but here they have to struggle. So I think that was not intentional, that was for that reason which I am saying.
Ivan Vagner being brought into the inflatable medical tent. Don Pettit was brought into the medical tent a short time ago, joining Alexey Ovchinin. So all 3 crew members now have moved into the inflatable medical tent to get out of the Sokol launch and entry suits and move into flight clothing prior to being flown by helicopter.
So that's up. As I mentioned earlier, that they made him earlier in the medical inflatable medical tent there for the health checkups. I think he is not feeling well for some reason, and although I think it's not a major issue, and also I pray that it should not be. So I think it's time for the webcast to cover. But for tomorrow, SpaceX launch of NROL 145 and the next day we will be having the commercial resupply services mission to the International Space Station, the CRS-32, launching from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. So those streams are all posted on our channel. Be sure to check them out. We would love to have you back again with us there on those streams.
Successful landing of Don Pettit, Alexey, Ovchinin, and Ivan Vagner, all three crew members extracted from Soyuz, all three crew members inside the medical tent at the landing site. Landing occurring at 8:20 p.m. Central Time, 6:20 a.m. Kazakhstan time on Sunday morning, wrapping up a 220-day mission that spanned 93.3 million statute miles. With the three crew members out of Soyuz and in the medical tent, they'll be flown back by helicopter a short time from now to the staging city of Karaganda, Kazakhstan, where they will split up. Don Pettit moving into a NASA plane to be flown back to Houston, while Ovchinin and Vagner are flown back to their training base in the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center aircraft to Star City, Russia. So that will...
So anyways, with that, we will wrap up our coverage for now. But before that, want to thank you for wherever you are watching our live coverage. We can't do this broadcast without your encouragement. Thank you for your continued support of what we do here at AstroYonder. Be sure to check out our social media handle on X for the latest happenings in the space industry and updates on upcoming launches. Hope you enjoyed the stream, and also we hope that we could add some value to your viewing experience. We appreciate everyone joining us for today's event. Wishing you a nice week ahead. Once again, thanks everyone for being with us celebrating this event of Soyuz MS-26 Return. This is AstroYonder Live and me, Deepto, as of now signing off, and we will see you next time.